Welcome to Manna at the Tap, a podcast of Tapestry Ministries. Each episode reflects on a daily Bible reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. I'm Gloria, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey with the Tapestry community, and we refer to the daily Bible reading as our spiritual manna, nourishing our souls and fostering growth as we share insights and interpretations that enrich our lives. Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025 marks day 25 of the Lenten journey. And the lectionary reading presents a vignette illustrating how a widow experienced a miracle during the country's economic downturn. This story is found in the Old Testament book of 2 Kings, chapter 4. The prophet Elijah is dead, and his protege Elisha now leads the school of prophets. The economy in Israel is at its lowest point because when Elijah was alive, he prayed for a drought which prevented it from raining for several years. One day, a widow came to Elisha, reminding him that her husband had attended the school of prophets and had been faithful to God. However, as soon as a creditor heard of his death, they appeared at her house, demanding payment for the money he owed. And if she failed to pay, they intended to enslave her two sons until the debt was settled. Elisha asked her if he could help her, and then he inquired about what she had in the house. She told him she had nothing, but then remembered that she had a small jar of olive oil. Elisha instructed her to ask all her neighbors for empty jars. But he cautioned her, now don't just ask for a few. Keep asking for jars and send your sons to collect them and bring them back to you. The next step, Elisha said, was to secure her house, keep her neighbors unaware of what was happening inside, and start filling the jars she had borrowed with the small amount of olive oil she had. The woman and her sons set up an assembly line. As they passed her an empty jar, she filled it. The woman was so busy pouring oil into the jars that she didn't notice her sons had run out of jars to fill. She called to them, telling them she needed another jar, and they replied, "That's it, Mom." No more empty jars, and no more oil was flowing. The woman then returned to Elisha and told him what she had done, and he instructed her to go on her Instagram account, sell the jars of oil, and repay her husband's debt. Then she and her sons could live off the remaining money. You might wonder, that's an ancient story. Can this still apply today? And what can we learn from this story? Let's break it down. The widow was being asked to pay a debt she did not owe, but the consequences for owing the debt was going to be the enslavement of her sons. This would worsen the situation because in those days, the consequences of a woman without a male to protect her left her vulnerable and at the mercy of society. So she approached Elisha, the man of God, and she shared her situation. She told him she had nothing, but then remembered she had something, a small jar of olive oil. By expressing what she had rather than what she lacked, he laid out a plan for her to follow. What he told her to do might not have made sense, and she may have doubted its effectiveness, but she was obedient and gathered the jars, filling them with oil. After filling the jars, she returned to Elisha, who provided her with the next step. Once again, she obeyed, and during a time of scarcity, she experienced abundance. Elisha and the woman devised a plan of action through dialogue. When given instructions, she followed them. She needed her neighbors as well as her sons to be part of the miracle. They gathered jars from the neighbors and they formed an assembly line to help her pay off their father's debt, which also prevented them from being enslaved. What can we learn from this vignette? God cares for us, and God desires to meet our needs, not our wants. The miracle involved the hospitality of neighbors sharing their jars and the family's willingness to seek advice and act on it through dialogue along with obedience. You can trust the Lord to take care of you.